The second stage of Russian-Ukrainian war, which has started yesterday, is happening at this very moment. This will most likely be the turning point for every country involved in this war. What has changed in one day? What is the main goal of Russia and Ukraine from this second stage? How troops advanced and which locations have been captured? We'll be talking about everything related to the second stage in my today's video, and I'll be showing you all the changes on the map. What's up, investors and people of Reddit, it's the Russian Dude, and this is your daily update on Russian-Ukrainian war as of Tuesday, April 19th. You can see the main events of the day to my right, along with the timestamps. So if you are interested in any particular event, feel free to jump straight to that part of the video. Otherwise, please stay for the entire video so that you can be fully informed on everything significant that happened recently. And yes, I did finally shave. Here you can see a partial map of Ukraine, and right now I'll be showing you all the changes and events that happened recently during the second stage of the war. So first of all, let me put a rough border between Russia and Ukraine. And obviously on the right you have Russia and on the left you have Ukraine. This night the advisor to the president of Ukraine, Alexei Arestovich, mentioned that according to him, the biggest fights will be concentrated in the cities of Mykolaiv, Izium, and Mariupol. And by the way, it is also worth mentioning that according to Russian side, the main goal of this second stage of the war is to so-called liberate the regions of Lugansk and Donetsk, which I'm highlighting in red right here. Arestovich also mentioned that this night the army of Ukraine was also advancing in Kherson region and Kharkiv region, liberating those territories from occupants. And I'll be putting advancements of the Ukrainian armies in blue and advancements of Russian army in red. And at the same time, there were big fights in Zaporozhye region. Russian army was trying to advance to the north so they can surround the Donbass region. As a result, we have the main advancement of the Russian forces from the eastern side of the region as well as from the northern eastern side of the region. And as you can see from this picture, the main goal of the Russian army will be to surround this region and liberate it. The head of Lugansk region, Sergei Gaidai, was urging its residents to evacuate as soon as possible. He basically said that everyone must take their only mandatory belongings because there is simply no time. Because according to him, the Russian army is planning to make second Mariupol in Lugansk region. And for those of you who do not know, right now it is estimated that somewhere between 80 and 95 of all buildings in Mariupol are either damaged or destroyed. And by the way, if you like this style of daily news reporting, feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, I will be donating all of my Patreon memberships at the end of each month to Ukraine. And I want to personally thank Jen Hayes for donating $100. And if you want to be a part of this group donation, make sure to check the link in the description. And today, one of the most devastating fights happened in the steel factory called Azov Style, where according to Russian side is the dislocation of the most Nazistic battalion in Ukraine called Azov. And in this picture you can basically see that the Russian army has completely surrounded this factory. It was also reported there are many civilians, including kids, who are hiding beneath this factory in the bomb shelters. And at this point, Ukrainian side will say that they simply had nowhere else to go, while Russia once again say that Ukrainian Nazis were using civilians to cover their positions. And it is up to you which side you want to believe in. Nevertheless, the Ministry of Defense of Russia offered every soldier from this Azov battalion to lay their weapons and surrender, and this will be effective only from approximately 7 AM Eastern Standard Time all the way until 9 AM Eastern Standard Time, which basically means that those soldiers who surrender within this 2 hours window, their lives will be saved. And after this 2-hour window has passed, the representative of Donetsk region, Eduard Basurin, has reported that the Russian army has launched the attack on the steel factory. Russia has launched several destructive missile attacks against the steel factory, and it was reported by the representative of Azov battalion, Svyatoslav Ponomary, that the factory was completely destroyed. He also mentioned that many civilians are now trapped beneath the debris, and the Azov battalion is now rescuing the civilians. And later the Minister of Defense of Russia, Sergei Shoigu, who apparently resurrected after the second severe heart attack in 1 month, reported that the second stage of the war by Russia is being completed successfully. He says that Russia is slowly but surely liberating those Lugansk and Donetsk regions, whatever liberating means in according to the Ministry of Defense of Russia. And later on, Alexei Arestovich mentioned that even though a steel factory Azov Style is being almost destroyed by Russia, Mariupol still hasn't surrendered to Russians. He says that Russia is now trying to look for weak spots of Ukrainians where they will be concentrating their future efforts. And this is the way Alexei Arestovich sees the third stage of the war. First of all, Russia might capture these territories and then they will stand their ground. After this, Russia might leave the territory of Ukraine, and only after these peaceful talks between two countries will resume. The New York Times has also reported today that the second stage of the war from Russian side has barely begun. What they mean by this is that Russia has not yet fully finished the reallocation of their forces, and that all these advancements that happened today were not the result of full force of Russia. Some military experts think that Russia will continue to reallocate its forces, and only then they will launch full-scale attack. And here we have former British ambassador to Russia, Sir Tony Brenton, who says that he sees two possible outcomes of this second stage. The first outcome is that Russia will capture Donbas region and use this in their negotiations with Ukraine. And second, in case Russia fails to capture Donbas, then long and exhaustive war can begin. And by the way, it is already being reported is that Russia is getting ready to hold referendums in these occupied territories. Referendum, in very basic understanding, means that the residents of the region will be voting on the future of the region. And here, for example, we can see one of the rehearsals of these so-called referendums where old people are forced to vote by raising their hands. The video is being presented to us by Russia Today, therefore it's hard to establish the credibility. Also today, the representative of Ukrainian negotiations team, Mikhailo Podolyak, mentioned that all the future talks between Russia and Ukraine are now frozen. And Daily Mail reports that Putin might not stop after capturing Donbas. They claim that Russia might continue its invasion, now targeting the following cities of Kharkov, Dnieper, Zaporozhye, Mykolaiv, Odessa, and Kiev. CNN issued a report based on military intelligence that they allegedly have that Putin will have his military victory parade on May 9th. For those of you who do not know, Russia celebrates this victory parade every May 9th, starting 1945, after Nazistic Germany was defeated. And this time Putin also wants his parade, but he needs some kind of victory to justify it. For this reason, some people expect that by that time Donbas region will be a part of Russia, or something worst case scenario else will happen, such as, for example, Russia will accomplish its ridiculous goal of denazifying Ukraine by doing something unspeakable. The US is considering labeling Russia as state sponsoring the terrorism, which basically means in case this happens, Russia will be put on the same row as North Korea, Iran, Cuba, and Syria. Oleg Tinkov, who is the creator of one of the biggest banks in Russia, Tinkoff Bank, is now speaking openly against the war. It is also worth mentioning that just a couple of years ago he was furiously supporting Putin. And the only one thing that made him so drastically change his mindset is that 2 years ago he was in Russia and now he's outside of Russia. I guess this is a pretty good representation of how some public people in Russia support war at this very moment. It is just because they have to. But I'm almost certain that more than half of them deep inside they know the truth. Russian government officials are now proposing to start teaching history classes beginning with the very first year of school. And of course, these history classes will be mainly focused on Russia and patriotism. I guess it's easier to raise future patriots right now rather than changing the mindsets of our generation. The next news I'm gonna tell you, it's not fake, it's real. The Communistic Party of Russia is now proposing to replace current Russian flag, which is white, blue and red, for Russian USSR flag. At this very moment, this proposal is accepted and is being reviewed by higher government officials. According to the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, these are approximate losses of Russia in this war. And this includes approximately 20,800 soldiers, 802 tanks and 169 planes. And if you want to see more details, feel free to pause the video and ask me for the translation. Today, the exhibition about Nazism has been opened in Moscow, Russia. It obviously talks about the basic ideology of Nazism, about crazy ideas about superiority of one race above another ones, about Adolf Hitler, and about Ukrainian Nazis. At the end of this exhibition, you can see the materials related to Azov Battalion, which is allegedly the most Nazistic battalion force force in Ukraine according to Russian side. So basically the whole purpose of this exhibition is to connect Nazis and Ukrainians so that Russians will feel more obligated to denazify Ukraine. The Chancellor of Germany, Olaf Scholz, was speaking with representatives of Western countries for the last couple of days. And these are the main statements and conclusions that they agreed upon. First of all, NATO will not be directly involved in this conflict in Ukraine. Second, Germany has given everything it could to Ukraine from its own military reserves. Third, NATO will not allow Russia to win in this war. And finally, the future world that Putin sees for himself is completely unacceptable. As of today, 16 diplomatic missions have returned to Kiev, Ukraine, and among those countries are France, Turkey, Italy, Poland, Kazakhstan and Czech Republic. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky summarized this day by making the following statements. First of all, Ukraine is now fighting against the most of Russian army. Second, that in case Ukraine would have received all the weapons they were asking for, the war will be already over. Third is that the intensity of military action, specifically in Kharkov, Donbass and Dnipropetrovsk region, has increased dramatically. Fourth is that Moscow still does not give Ukraine the response whether they want to exchange Medvedchuk for Ukrainian prisoners of war. And fifth is that Ukraine agreed with Netherlands about the deliveries of heavy weapons. Thank you so much for your attention, stay safe and see you tomorrow.